Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, we're live in the studio, so get involved in the chat and the comments even. Going to be talking about all the latest Manchester United news. There's loads to get through, as you would expect. Looking at slightly ahead to the Spurs game. We've already done a preview for that, but we will be looking a little bit ahead to the Spurs game. Also talking about some of the transfer stories. There are transfer stories going on, even though we're a little bit away from the transfer window. Plus, we'll be talking about Carrick, of course, Wayne Rooney's son. He's just been offered a deal at Manchester United. So we'll be getting into all that, and more importantly, today is the day of Munich remembrance, the 6th of February, of course. So our thoughts, as always, turn to the flowers of Manchester, the Busby Babes, and everyone who lost their lives in the Munich air crash. It's the most important day in the Manchester United calendar, something we always acknowledge and remember, and rightly so. And it's not just something that affects Manchester United. This was a team that, you know, the flowers of Manchester, the flowers of English football. Fans from across the world admired the Busby Babes, and obviously a big part of the England team, many of those players too, and in other internationals. So we always remember him on this day, and rightly so. And there'll be a service later, I think, at Old Trafford as usual. Good to see everyone in the chat as always. Akash K, Football Tackleman, Raven 78. Let us know what you think about the latest stories, and make sure you are hitting that like button. Right, let's talk about Rooney, and it isn't Wayne. Kai Rooney, now I feel old. This here in the mail. Kai Rooney, 16, set to follow in Dad Wayne's footsteps after being offered new United deal with 50,000 a year contracts on the horizon. So 50 grand isn't 50 grand a week, as some people may have thought it was, which would be insane to give a 16-year-old, regardless of how talented he is, that kind of deal. 50 grand a year, which is still a lot of money for a 16-year-old. And it's look under, you know, at that age, sorry, on the under 18s or whatever, the academy team, just because of who your dad is. It doesn't work like that. I remember hearing this argument when Charlie Savage was playing for the academy. People saying he's only in the team because Robbie Savage is his dad. What? Robbie Savage didn't even make one appearance for Manchester United's first team. You're not going to get in the academy team just because Robbie Savage is your dad. You've got to have a level of ability, talent, and obviously hard work and all the rest of it to get anywhere near that team. It doesn't matter who your dad is. Now, having a dad with a strong connection to Manchester United, it might, in some circumstances, get you a trial at United. Wayne Rooney might have been able to say to the club, look, I've got my lad here, he's doing really well, can you have a trial? I can understand that, but you don't get to stay at United and play for United just because Wayne Rooney's your dad. It doesn't work like that. He's there on his merit, and from everything we gather, he's a very, very talented footballer, Kai Rooney. He's got a great work ethic, works really hard, is very talented. He's always going to suffer from comparisons to his dad, which is massively unfair for any youngster, but it's going to happen because you're Wayne Rooney's son, so people are going to look at you. But that's unfair because for me, Wayne Rooney is, I would argue, in the top three. Yeah, top three greatest ever Premier League players, probably in the top three greatest ever English footballers. I think he's up there with the likes of Bobby Charlton, maybe Gazza as well. So I do think it'd be harsh to compare anyone to that level. You're talking about the sort of the elite of the elite. And also with Wayne Rooney, it wasn't just that he was an elite level footballer and one of the greatest ever. It's that he did it at such a young age. What was he, 16 when he was banging him in for Everton? So he's going to suffer from those comparisons. It is going to be a little bit unfair, but he is a very talented footballer in his own right, and he's in this team, and he's going to get this deal on merit. And from what I gather, we spoke to Wayne Rooney briefly, me and McCall, a few months ago, and Wayne Rooney doesn't strike me as someone who was sort of particularly, you know, asking the club to look out for his son or give his son any favours. I think it'd be the other case, the other way around, where he's like, you know what, my son needs to step up and show he's good enough to be in that team, and Kai Rooney's done it. So more power to him. It's great to see. And you got a little bit more here. It is reported, the Rooney family has yet to make a decision on what to do next. Look, we'll keep an eye on this one. He's obviously very young. It's exciting, isn't it? I find it's weird, it's quite nostalgic, even though he's a youngster. You're like looking at it going, seeing Wayne Rooney's son playing for United would be mint. But he's got to be good enough. And also, you don't want to rush him as well. And you can't expect him to be like his dad who's just ready to play first-team football at 16. That ain't going to happen. But a very talented young man. And I look forward to seeing him, hopefully, in the Manchester United first team one day. Let me know what you think. I think people saying that there was a bit of an issue with the stream, but they've refreshed it, and everything is all right now. Yeah, Tommy Greenwell says, side show somewhat. If he's half the player his dad was, he'll be mint, says Kevin credibly. Yep, I agree with that. Number 6 shirt says 52k a year is less than 1k a week. Would have thought he'd have been offered more, in fairness. I think at that age, you've got to be careful. You don't want to overdo it. And also, that is a lot of money. A lot of money. Cowboy says Rooney better than Gaza. I'd probably agree with that. For me, I think the top 3 English... I think the top 3 English players are probably Charlton, Rooney and Gaza. I think Brian Robson's up there. But I think you're talking in terms of pure talent, you'd probably put those 3 at the top. I don't know. It's a debate that we can have another day. Martin Arsenal did it for so long. Jay did. People forget how long Rooney was at the very top of English football, playing for England, scored over 50 goals, I think, for England, playing for Manchester United for many years, winning everything, won the lot. One of the few players, I think there's only him and Michael Carrick, I think you've won everything, like every club trophy you can win. I think that Europa League final made sure of that in Stockholm. So, yeah, Rooney, a legend. Hopefully some will be for United one day too. Let's talk about Michael Carrick. Our mate Laurie Whitwell has been talking about Michael Carrick. We've heard a little bit about this before. He says it here. Shorter sessions, one-on-one chats, dressing room debriefs. This is kind of different. This is the biggest difference, or one of the biggest differences we've seen between Michael Carrick and Ruben Amorim. So Ruben Amorim, I think after the game, he used to just get off. He didn't like having, after he'd done his media, I don't think he liked having sort of post-match chats and stuff like that, where Michael Carrick does like to do those things. Also, as well, the sessions are shorter but more intense. There's more one-on-one sort of conversations there, you can see in that tweet. Also, Steve Holland is a key figure. Told players he wants hard-working training or they'll be sent in early. So there's an entirely different setup now, isn't there? Because not only did Ruben Amorim leave, his coaching staff left with him. And that made sense. None of them were gave you any reason to think they would stick around, or nor should they. They came with him and they left with him, and that all makes sense. Michael Carrick's brought his own team in. A few eyebrows were raised, potentially, when he brought certain people in. I was like, Jonathan Woodgate at United, really? But Michael Carrick feels that these are the people he can trust. One name that everyone seemed to sort of understand why he was there was Steve Holland. If you watched, I think it was Stick to Football, where Roy Keane was like, oh, why is, Johnny Evans there? Which I thought was harsh, and I think Johnny Evans being in that setup made sense, because he's, not only is he someone who's been around United for on and off for like 20 years, or probably a bit longer, he's also someone who's played with some of these players. How rare is that? You have a coach who's actually played alongside some of these players, maybe even played against one or two of them. So there's that element with Johnny Evans as well. Very highly respected. And obviously has a decent relationship with Michael Carrick, as he wouldn't have brought him into the fold. Then you've got Steve Holland now. Steve Holland was the one that Gary Neville on that Stick to Football was like, look, that is a good move from Michael Carrick. Steve Holland, I've worked with him at England. He knows what he's doing when it comes to coaching, when it comes to training. He will be a very big asset to Michael Carrick. And it does seem like a lot of people are praising him. You can see it here there's a little quote from The Athletic. It says, Steve Holland told Manchester United squad that he would be fair with all of them, but they expected hard work, and anybody who doesn't fulfil their side of the bargain will be sent back inside. It's not like going to jail. Players were also given homework clips to study on their phones after one of the early sessions. So he's coming here with a good reputation, a strong reputation, and so far the formula is working. You don't know how big an impact they've had in terms of who's had what kind of impact. What we do know is the results have been better. We've beaten Manchester City with one of the best performances I've seen post Sir Alex Ferguson at Manchester United. We've beaten Arsenal at the Emirates. Arsenal were flying in the league, not an easy ground to go to. We got a much-deserved win there, and we've beaten Fulham at home in a game where you look at it and you go, that's the kind of game we would have drew 6 weeks ago. Because we did. We did draw those games. We literally drew with Fulham at Craven Cottage, and we also drew at home with Wolves and Bournemouth and West Ham and all the rest of it, and lost at home to 10-man Everton. So you can see the difference. The difference is there, and you can credit all of them, all the coaching staff. Obviously, Michael Carrick's got to be the main man, that you give the credit to, because he's the manager. But it does seem like he's got a team in that are working, that getting the best out of players. And from what we gather from quotes and stuff like that from the players, I know players are always going to be sort of complimentary towards the person that's picking them in the team. But it does feel like there's a better atmosphere amongst the squad, and the squad are really buying into what Michael Carrick is trying to do. There's people that are talking about Gaza here. Who's Gaza? Says Hodgie. Paul Gascoigne. Paul Gascoigne suffers with the whole thing of being pre-Premier League. So when I was a kid, Gaza was like one of the most talked about footballers in the country. We tried to sign him. Fergie tried to sign him when he was at Newcastle. He actually agreed to come to Manchester United, and then Fergie went on holiday, and then Fergie says when he was on holiday, he read in the paper that Gaza had signed for Spurs. And there's always this debate about how things would have been different for Gaza because his career probably didn't hit the heights it should have done. Would it have been different if he'd have come to United and played under Sir Alex Ferguson? Gaza played at Spurs, won the FA Cup, went to Lazio. He suffered an injury in the FA Cup final where I think he did his ACL and eventually got his move to Lazio. Was injured. I think he was injured for a big chunk of his move in Italy. Didn't really hit the heights that he should have done, and then came back to English football, British football, I should say. Forgive me. Played at Rangers, won a load of trophies at Rangers, then ended up at Middlesbrough and then Everton, I think. Probably never quite fulfilled his true potential, but had 2 very good tournaments for England in Italia 90 and Euro 96, and that is one of the reasons why he's so revered by a lot of England fans and by football fans in general. If you're a certain age and you watch Gaza, you know how good he is. And people like Brian Robson, who obviously played alongside him for England and played against him, always wax lyrical about how good he is. Just a little bit of history there. Let's talk about managers. Why Man United are taking their time over manager decision. This is from Simon Stone at BBC. This is Michael Carrick has made an impressive start to his second stint as Man United head coach. United themselves staying silent on who's going to get the job permanently. They're, it cites here the Solskjaer example of how we give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer the job to the end of the season. During that spell as well, he was given a 3-year contract. I always thought that was a bit odd. Not that he was given the deal, it was the timing of it. Because we had that mad run where we just kept winning matches, and I think the only one we lost in the first 17 games was at home to PSG, and then we beat them to go through in the next round. Or not in the next round, sorry, in the second leg. We then, I think, lost to Arsenal in the league and Wolves in the FA Cup. And then we gave him a contract. And then you can see that the wheels came off. United won 2 and lost 8 of their final 12 games. Some of those performances as well were woeful. So this is why there's this sort of loss of form argument that happened with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer that's maybe making Manchester United a little bit cautious. I mean, look, I love Michael Carrick, and if it was up to me, yeah, you'd probably get the job. I said this off the bias that I'd give him the job as soon as Mbeumo scored against City. But you have to be realistic. Giving someone a job after 3 games is foolhardy, even by Manchester United standards. And you could argue, well, actually, Jay, it's technically, is it 7 games, whatever it is in total? But I think we have to see a little bit more, don't we, before we make a decision. Now, in an ideal world, Michael Carrick wins every match between now and the end of the season. United win 21, and we give him a job permanently. But I think we should definitely take stock towards the end of the season or at the end of the season, see where we're up to. Have we got Champions League football? Have this level of improved performances continued? Is the atmosphere around the club with the players and the squad as positive as it has been in these first few games? Then do you think that Michael Carrick is the man to take you forward? Do you give him, not to sort of, be a bit wishy-washy or kick the can down the street or whatever, do you give him a short-term deal? Do you go, okay, we've seen something here, maybe we give you a 1-year deal even? Is that feasible? I don't know. Let me know what you think. What would you want to see happen? It's very difficult, isn't it, to take the emotions out of football. I don't think you should take the emotions out of football because it's an emotional sport. But emotionally, you'd be like, just give it to Carrick. We love him as a player, love what he's done as a manager, but do the club have to be a little bit more hard-faced if the results aren't as amazing as they have been so far? Let me know what you think. Eric the King with a great question. Do you trust Ineos to get it right? No, I don't trust Ineos. I don't know is the answer whether they're going to get it right. So far, when it comes to handling the managers, they have been shambolic. Yeah, they came in and Erik ten Hag was the manager. Now, I didn't expect them to sack Erik ten Hag straight away. That would have been insane. But then we had the FA Cup final against City where we won. And then they started interviewing other candidates for the job. So you think, well, it doesn't matter that we've won the FA Cup final. They obviously don't rate Erik ten Hag. They're interviewing other candidates. Then, for whatever reason, different reasons, they didn't decide to employ any of the candidates they interviewed. They stuck with Erik ten Hag. Obviously, he was massively undermined because he knew they'd been interviewing other candidates. We all knew that. They gave him an extension to his contract. I think it was just like a one-year deal kind of thing, where an extension. Then they sack him, 3 months into that? Bring in Ruben Amorim, who didn't want to join straight away. He wanted to wait to the end of the season. This is a manager who obviously plays 3 at the back, or 5 at the back, if you will, and it didn't really suit the squad we had, but we did it anyway. Dan Ashworth didn't like that idea and was against that idea, so they sacked him. And then they ended up sacking Ruben Amorim. So far, when it comes to managerial decisions, there isn't much proof that they are clued up. And if you want to go even further, you could look at what they've done at Nice, where I think they've had about 10 managers or 8 managers in 10 years, and say that's even worse. So we'll have to wait and see. It's hope rather than expectation that they get it right when it comes to me. Let me know what you think. Giggity says, we've got to wait to the end of the season to see how Carrick has done. Steve M says, if Carrick's first 2 years went like Ollie's, I'd be pretty happy. Then it's a matter of not effing him over in the third. Yeah, people forget that. It's a good point, because I think we've got into this stage where we go about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer like, oh, well, that was a shambles. Ole, don't want another one of them. Well, it wasn't. There was actually 2 good years there. If United finished third, let's say next season, and second the season after, you'd probably look at that and go, that's good, that's progress, that's decent. I don't think you'd be getting the bunting out for finishing third and second, but you'd be, relatively happy with it. That's what Ollie did. The issue was, we lost the Europa final. There was this idea that he couldn't get us over the line, that he couldn't take us to that level of kicking on from finishing second and actually winning the title. Whether that's rightly or wrongly, he just didn't, or it seemed the club didn't feel like he could do that. And then when the sort of results went against him, the club decided to twist rather than stick. And it didn't really do out that, did it? With hindsight's a wonderful thing, it probably would have been better just sticking with him to the end of the season, because Ralph Rangnick came in and was pretty much a disaster. What's happening here? Lolly Mellon says, JJJ, what watch are you wearing? How much is Adam paying y'all? Well, Adam doesn't pay us all for starters. And my watch was like a Christmas present. And it was like a Christmas present 5 years ago for about 50 quid. Chris Griffith says, Jay, please don't mention Voldemort. Please refer to him as he who shan't be named. We need to purge the club of that charlatan. I'm not sure whether that's a reference to Ralph Rangnick or Ruben Amorim. I'm not sure. Forgive me because I've mentioned them both. But yeah, I will always mention ex-managers, even if it is a little bit, difficult for some of us to live through it. I'm going to wrap it up here because we have got a guest coming in. I think he's here now, actually, so someone can go and let him in. We're going to be chatting to Chris Wheeler from the Mail. I've been quoting Chris Wheeler articles quite a lot, so we're going to be chatting to him very soon. That's going to be out later on today. You've also got, off the bat, we've got an uncensored that is going to be coming out as well, so make sure you're not doing so already. You are hitting like, share and subscribe. Also, I said it at the beginning of the video, but in case you missed it, today is obviously a very important day in the Manchester United calendar, in the football calendar, the 6th of February, the anniversary of the Munich air crash. Our thoughts are always with the Flowers of Manchester, and they will always, always be remembered. I've been Jay Moy. Thanks for watching.